Hello and welcome all the way back to a new episode of Sleepy 8. It's been a while. It's been about 3 months. Certainly gotten busy over this summer and especially transitioning out of the Metis Nation, but I'm still Metis. I'm not, just transitioning out of a job and a role. But as you can see, if you are a subscriber, fantastic. If you're new to the YouTube channel, please hit subscribe. It helps with our algorithm, and it all helps to notify you every time there's a new episode. We are probably, I would say, one of the best Métis podcasts in Canada, and we do have a very large following now, which is fantastic. But this is Alberta. It's an Alberta Métis podcast, even though I am originally from British Columbia, and I did held a membership in Saskatchewan as well. So I've held a membership in BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan as a Métis individual. I have many cousins all over the homeland in terms of where we are. And if that's something that's new to you and you haven't seen all the other episodes, you can go all the way back to Squeaky Wheel Métis podcast and learn all about who I am. And very excited to move through this new path and new fall and where we're headed. I had set up Babish Consulting Company, which was about 3 months ago, to really handle our mixers, our podcasts, all that other stuff. And glad to see that that's continuing on, but I will be accepting a new role. I can't really make the announcement yet, but it's very significant. And it was the major factor on why I didn't choose to run in this last election. But, 9 years of service with the Metis Nation of Alberta, I'm very honored to achieve that. I think it's very, very important that I outline that our service sometimes takes you to different places. And notice that numerous offers come to me because of the podcast, which is very unique for me. And but we want to continue along talking about Métis cultural history, talk about our cultural items, bringing guests, more guests that are Métis cultural leaders, our politicians that are out there, bringing them in to talk about the current Métis Nation, whether it's Métis National Council or Métis Nation of Alberta. And perhaps maybe somebody from Saskatchewan will stop by and want to talk about MNS, or someone from BC and talk about MNBC. So we're pretty excited to continue the Sleepy 8 Métis podcast. And if you like to sponsor, please go to the email below. I know Devin will insert that pretty quickly here. And we're pretty excited to have things off the bat. And, today I probably want to speak about things that have been happening over the summer. Just a reminder, there is an election coming. But we also want to give certainly acknowledgement to Audrey Putra and her retirement announcement that she did a few months back. And, we're pretty happy with her service, what she's created for us in terms of employment, education, training, our business development, all our urban housing that we have in place, and also the negotiations with the self-government. And it's certainly, she started in 1996, which was a long time ago, and has been dedicated to the nation ever since. Even served as interim president for Métis National Council, I think in 2006, and very close personal friend of mine now, and probably in the future. My kids were raised in the Métis Nation. One of the first gifts we got at the hospital was blankets from Audrey Putra. So it's kind of nice that we have that back and forth. And as we continue to move the nation forward, hopefully we get some new exciting leaders in place. And, we want people out there that not just to sit around and drink coffee and take notes, but the ones who really get vocal and contribute and debate, have healthy debates, is important. And if you have that sort of background or you want to contribute to the Metis Nation, I think that's important that we have very active members who sit on those councils. And we look forward to the future. And in fact, the election will be September 13th to the 19th. This is the first time for us that we can vote online and mail in, as well as, in person. It was always just in person. They would post a polling station, we'd all go and vote there. But now we can do it a little bit different now. And we know with the last constitution vote that we had, where it was 97.7% voted yes to the Constitution, they have a system in place for voting now, which is a very accurate, more up-to-date version of how you do voting. So we're pretty excited to have that. The deadline for candidates will be August 11th. We know that it's been a bit of a challenge for this election in terms of people getting signatures. I know if I would have ran, I might have a tough time because it's hard for us to know where people live. Like, we'll see them day to day, but then you're asking us to vote in their district. Well, then it's really hard to narrow down where people live. But I think there's a large gap right now in certainly south west Calgary, which is they're missing a citizens rep and a district captain. If anybody don't really know what those two roles are, a district captain is more focused on the district itself and all the happenings. They have to form a district council, just like they would a local council, and then host events, as well as be a lot involved in the engagement piece. And then our citizens rep are the ones that will be meeting in Edmonton a lot, in Ottawa, traveling a lot, certainly at those high-level meetings. So it's a very, so you go from one leader system. So I was Region 3 president from Red Deer River South, pretty much, and then headed, sorry, that's not very accurate. I should go just south of Ponoka, but south, where Morningside is. Sorry, just north of Ponoka. I don't even know where my geography is. I just know where that Morningside and Provost on this side, and then certainly Rocky was in my region. But it goes from one president and one vice president of that region to now, I do believe there is 6 citizen reps and 6 captains, so quite a few people. We go from 20 to 22 citizens reps and captains all over the province now, and then there's a provincial president. So, and then of course our women's rep, and then we have a youth rep that will sit at that table. The ones who are district and district captains and citizens reps have to collect 10 signatures, and then the provincial president and the youth rep, as well as the women's rep, have to get 150. So that's a bit of a challenge for them, but at least they just say, you have an Alberta address, then you can sign my forms. But those ones even who have to get 10 is a bit of an issue. And then the criminal record check. So that's certainly a valid requirement, that if you do have a file on you, that if it's not pardoned, then you're not able to put your name forward. So some people were having criminal records back as 30, 40 years, but if there's no pardon, then they couldn't qualify. So it has blended to a bit of more stringent, I guess, choice of candidates. And if you obviously can do that. So we have a lot of missing pieces, missing areas. So they extended that to August 11th, and I know that's today, but this will probably come out next week. I really shouldn't mention time, should I, Devin? But anyways, with that, hopefully we get a good slew of candidates. And then after that, if there's no places to fill, there will be by-elections, and there will be a process for that. The Chief Electoral Officer is now a full-time, full-year round office, which is pretty unique for us. We only would hire them just for the election itself, and then once they serve the contract, give us a final report, and But now it's a full year thing, and certainly if there's a judicial complaint, it'll go through them about some of the candidates that their names are put forward, or things that are happening. They'll do all the by-elections, certainly, if somebody has to leave. So yeah, it's a lot of management, and I can see that going from 15 politicians to now 25. So with that, so get out and vote, September 13th to the 19th. It's not really you have to get out. You can do it on your phone, go on your computer, sit at home, read about the candidates as much as possible. Go to albertametieselections.com. That'll tell you all the information about I don't know about the information about the candidates, but give you the name, and then you might have to do a little searching for yourself. We find that people will complain about not being communicated with, but we always know we are Métis people, so we do our own sort of style of investigating who these people are, and I'd say continue to do that. You probably won't be getting the information on the spot of everybody's bio before it comes out. Certainly go to their Facebook page, try to find who they are, and just go from there. So yeah, we're pretty excited about this new, I am, certainly, if you know who I am, about this new self-government. We had the first reading that was presented to members of parliament and voted on. And certainly, not voted on, but they'll go through a second, third reading, all the way to royal assent. There's about a 10-tier system when they propose legislation. So that will continue to happen. We know there was issues happening in Ottawa in terms on the day of the vote with Ontario, the Metis Nation of Ontario. But we certainly know that's something that they have to deal with in terms of their introducing new communities. And, to us, we know our historic Métis Nation specific to the communities doesn't exist past, Rainy Lake was always the boundary just east of Winnipeg where the Red River stopped. And we never really went past Lake Superior to getting into Ontario, because if we did, our historic Métis people probably would have been jailed, or a lot of issues would have happened to them. So we didn't really venture too far into Ontario, but we understand that their current contemporary or modern day agreement with Canada will outline these new communities that were going into Ontario. And then, of course, the First Nations have issue with that, which is certainly understandable, and something that Métis Nation of Ontario has to deal with the treaty chiefs over there and start talking to them and having those dialogues and those conversations. But it really has nothing to do with Métis Nation of Alberta. I want to be very clear with that. We don't go into their area and start communicating with First Nations. It's something we wouldn't do. We have our own to deal with here in Alberta, and we'll continue to work with those relationships, right, which I'm sure we will. And I can say that because I'm a member. I can still push that to these politicians to say, start speaking to our First Nations people here. So yeah, very excited about that. I went to the transition committee meeting last week and talked mainly about these things that are happening, and heard from the people where they are and how we're going to transition from being a nonprofit organization to a government. So we're pretty excited about that and what that means for us. I went to that transition meeting, and I would say 51% were brand new Métis that I've never seen before, and the place was pretty packed. So we're going to see that, I think, amongst our Métis people and our Métis Nation is people just sitting around the table and wanting to learn and understand who we are. And so, I have an open door policy to them, and as long as they don't interfere with me, I don't interfere with them, and they're just asking questions about, where we're headed as a Metis Nation, I have, no issues with that. And we're pretty excited about all the programs and possibilities that we're going to be included on now, and not be listed as secondary anymore. And I think for me, I've always personally had a window from 2014 till 2023. In 2014, we were secondary. We didn't have much, and the work that Marlene Lands and Ephraim laid for the region was, usually because of their will to do it. And now Audrey and her team have laid out possible more programs and not being in the primary. And that's something for all of us to get used to. 2016, the Daniels decision happened. 2017, we had a Metis Nation Accord, and then a framework with Canada. And now we will be engaged with industry on a lot of projects. And if anybody has any questions about that, if you're an industry partner or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to the Metis Nation. I should say the proper term is Otipemisoak Métis government, because that's what they're going to be called. Just a reminder, Otipemisoak means, the people who own themselves. I've heard through some of my Cree relatives that it's the people who are stubborn, but I don't know. But it kind of details, I guess, who we are as a kind of people. And if you look at our history, the Métis history, you'll see a lot of those things where people were coming into our area and we're saying, no, you have no legal right to be here, and then challenging them, right? So, which, we always take back to the teachings of Cuthbert Grant, as well as, the teachings, about Louis Riel and even his dad, Louis Riel Sr. We take those teachings with us. And so we know that we'll never you come into my area and you assert yourselves, well, no, you have to do it properly, right? And so that's how we sort of gauge that. But no, it's been a fun, I think, summer for me. I've been camping a lot with my kids, and so it's been pretty exciting. Stampede was busy. Probably the busiest stampede I've ever seen. I've never seen that many people in one area where you're crammed in like a sardine, which is very uncomfortable, I got to admit. And you really want to go from A to B, and you really dread going in that direction. But other than that, the stampede is the way it's going to probably be for a long time. And then, the Batoche was even busier. I think they had 30,000 on the Saturday at Batoche, and I remember going there as a kid, and it was never like that. And begging my parents to leave because I felt so boring, and then people started boozing, and it would just be nuts. But now it's a family event. There's activity, there's chuck wagons, there's golf tournaments, softball, like everything, right? And but it's really nice to see all of our families that partake in that. And then other than that, the AGA is this weekend. It's probably their last one that they're doing for the MNA before they transition to this new government, hopefully in the future. And there's reports, there's voting, I'm sure, on the Saturday, and then as well as the Saturday dance. Yeah, it's always exciting. And even the guy who plays, Alex Kosarak, who plays the music for us, is busier than I've ever seen him before. I've known Alex since he was a kid, and now he's a full-fledged musician and out there. And I probably can't even book the guy anymore, right? So, but it's nice to see Alex. I've seen him a few times coming in and out. But yeah, then the golf tournament, I think at the region, I participated a little bit in that, and nice to see everybody there. And look forward to the future. And I think the next big update I'm probably going to do for you guys will be my big announcement of where I'm landing here in Calgary. So, other than that, I want to wish you guys a wonderful week. Please hit subscribe, go to the channel, And if you guys need any more information about Alberta Métis, just let us know. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, and the Stoney Nakoda Nations, the Metis Nation of Alberta Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta.